The fighting was something that I did to really keep me out of trouble when I was in my youth. I had like a good heart, but I was like super angry. I had a broken home and a rough childhood experience. Going through school was a really tough time for me. So I just grew up in this kind of really rugged world of contact sports, martial arts. Growing up in that kind of environment just pushed me to love the physical aspect of it. And that really made me need to sit down and figure some things out. Like, there's got to be more to this kind of fighting journey than what's really here, because owning a gym is like one part of it, but how am I going to reach more people? How am I going to get my message out to the world a little bit more? And I just had such a humbling experience growing up in that world, going from learning martial arts to learning that the style that I was coached in had almost no practicality for personal protection, had limited ability for sport fighting, and it just gave me another place to have to go to level up and grind out and be determined and stick to that kind of path. And I knew I was designed for something more. I was just never really sure of what it was. And after I retired from professional fighting, I kind of fell more in love with doing the business. I read a bunch of business books, and I read most recently Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, which got me into his elite business group, which is actually how I came across you and all your
I
page
love
and
it.
all of the other phenomenal entrepreneurs in the group. So I'm just here to like really turn that next chapter in my life.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And we are continuing our showcase of the coaches that don't suck. And you guys, I am so excited to welcome my friend Shaun Shubert here to the show. Shaun, welcome.
Yes, Amanda, thank you. Sick opening. I appreciate you having me on. Let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. I love it. Okay, Shaun reached out to me to do this podcast to find out if there would be any kind of interest here, and I was so interested. And let me tell you why. He is a professional fighter, coach, author, and speaker on a mission to help business leaders thrive under pressure. And if I might say, Shaun did an especially prepared and good job of getting ready for this podcast. A lot of people, when they come on the podcast, it's like we schedule it, they show up, and then that's it. But I heard from Shaun several days before. He posted about the fact we're doing this interview on his Instagram. Like, this man really cares about the diligence of preparation. And it didn't take me long on his Instagram feed to kind of understand that that's a key part of his strategy, is to be prepared. He has a unique background in the high stakes world of fighting, and he now shares psychological strategies with CEOs, business owners, and top managers so that they can master their mindset, eliminate fear, and lead with resilience. He's been featured on UFC's Fight Pass and has had recent guest appearances on two legit and high performance podcasts. And Shaun connects the discipline of fighting to the demands of leadership, showing how mental and physical training can empower leaders to perform at their peak and handle stress with confidence. So let's dive into your insights, man. I'm so excited that you're here. Really, this is a really cool conversation we're about to
Super
have.
pumped.
Yeah. So Shaun, you mentioned that you started your business, your gym, like a decade ago, and you've been a fighter this whole time. And then more recently, you've decided to expand into business coaching. I am so curious, like, what's driving that desire to coach? Why?
I really, really love coaching, and it's such a passion of mine. I always really was into it when I was growing up. I used to volunteer as a kid during summers. I'd go down to youth programs, stay after school. I would volunteer for giving food to the homeless at Thanksgiving, giving away presents at Christmas time. So that kind of just giving spirit was always like a super central part to me. The fighting was something that I did to really keep me out of trouble when I was in my youth. I had like a good heart, but I was like super angry. I had a broken home and a rough childhood experience. Going through school was a really tough time for me. So I just grew up in this kind of really rugged world of contact sports, martial arts. Growing up in that kind of environment just pushed me to love the physical aspect of it. And that really made me need to sit down and figure some things out. Like, there's got to be more to this kind of fighting journey than what's really here, because owning a gym is like one part of it, but how am I going to reach more people? How am I going to get my message out to the world a little bit more? And I just had such a humbling experience growing up in that world, going from learning martial arts to learning that the style that I was coached in had almost no practicality for personal protection, had limited ability for sport fighting, and it just gave me another place to have to go to level up and grind out and be determined and stick to that kind of path. And I knew I was designed for something more. I was just never really sure of what it was. And after I retired from professional fighting, I kind of fell more in love with doing the business. I read a bunch of business books, and I read most recently Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, which got me into his elite business group, which is actually how I came across you and all your
I
page
love
and
it.
all of the other phenomenal entrepreneurs in the group. So I'm just here to like really turn that next chapter in my life. I'm like full blast, and I'm coming at this business with this hungry fighter's mindset. And that's where I'm at right now.
I love it. I love it. You know what's so funny is I was not a fighter whatsoever growing up. However, I was an athlete and I did do figure skating. And a lot of what you actually just shared about your background, I'm like, yeah, me too, except figure skating. Yeah, me too, except figure skating. Yeah, me too, except figure skating. And that desire to give back to the community, that desire to connect with other people, using sport to give your life structure and meaning. Like I resonate with like everything that you're saying, except it was figure skating. And it's so interesting, even the part where you said that the fighting style that you learned wasn't necessarily practical, for defense purposes or something like that. It was reminding me of like figure skating was such a powerful force in my life until it became completely impractical. But the thing is that just because you're not physically doing necessarily that same thing doesn't mean that you don't carry forward a lot of those lessons that you get from being in sport and being in structure, and that yen to keep growing. Totally. Yeah. That vibes. I get it. I am really curious. Like, you've been in business, in a local business for about a decade, and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they've got all kinds of backgrounds. They might be working in like a job or a corporate kind of position, and now they're thinking of pivoting into a coaching business. And one of the things that's been really key for my success and growth is to think a little more like a brick and mortar business owner. So I'm really curious, like, if a coach was to build a business, but let's say that it was more of a physical one, like yours is a studio, what would a top piece of advice be, just given all of your experience that you have in business building?
I think that knowing exactly what you want to do is paramount, especially if you're going to start putting more overhead into your cash flow. Like, you're going to have to start expensing out different things. Like, I'm looking to grow because I have a brick and mortar, because there's so many limitations to being stuck in this one spot, where I'm looking to see how many avenues I can create now that this has the notoriety that it's developed. I actually started my work life as a chef. I was going to be a career culinary arts expert. I went to culinary school. I rented kitchens and had a whole bunch of stuff where I was working in bars and doing nightclub security. And the martial arts, like I said, was always something that was just keeping me out of real trouble. It was keeping me busy and active. And when I was working the culinary fields, I got way too into the party scene. I was doing the nightclub stuff. I was doing private parties, that kind of more fancy high end stuff, trying to, again, make a name for myself, make some business, make some money doing what I was doing. And it led me down a path where I started getting into more troubles, more hangouts. I got into some real big trouble. I ended up getting in trouble with the law, going to court. It was a big ordeal. I lost a bunch of money. I lost a bunch of my reputation, and I was just lucky enough to have a mentor where I was taking martial arts that offered me an opportunity to open up a karate school and run the programs. He was going to be the face of it, and I was going to run the gym and help him kind of expand, and he was going to give me a new fresh start. And about a year into our business together, he took his own life. He was facing his own demons, and the passing the business on to me was kind of like one of his last outs, that he just felt like he needed to get off his plate, and that was it for him. He checked out and he left me holding the bag. I had no business experience. I had no real name in the martial arts community, and I was just kind of like in this earth shattered world where my mentor, who was teaching me all about, you know, honor and pride and kind of all these amenities that go with martial arts, and just the environment, and his demons caught up with him, and it was just too heavy for him. And
Mm.
that was it, man. He checked out, and it
I'm
was
so
like,
sorry for your loss. Like that must have been an absolutely devastating season.
it was earth shattering, and it took me a real long time to kind of find my bearings after that, because it was a lot of like pain and trying to pick up the pieces and trying to hold stuff together for other people and myself. And it then got to a point where it was like enough time had passed, some pain had healed, and we had to start doing what was good for who was here right now. And
Mm.
things took a shift. I ended up getting some more students. I ended up keeping some people that wanted to kind of rekindle and carry the torch into the next generation. I got new teachers and mentors and just got sucked into this kind of new world of combat analytics, combat sports. I was fighting and working my way into the professional realm of that sport. I was doing all kinds of sports psychology, hypnosis, you name it, just trying to level up to get to these kind of higher echelons of fighting. And it was really the driver of fighting for notoriety. I was fighting for my name. I was fighting for the respect among my peers, whether they were respecting me or disrespecting me. I had no idea. I was just like, I just thought like I have to go and level up. I had no respect for myself in that realm. I knew where I was educated and uneducated, and I went out and got in the trenches and did what I needed to do to make myself reputable.
Love that. That takes so much intention, so much work, so much development. And I'm really curious, the psychology side of things and bringing this to business owners. What's the inspiration there?
It was about a month or two after I retired from professional fighting. Like I told you in our pre-interview, I was in business for 10 years, but I only started doing business about 9 months ago. And I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary where I retired from professional fighting. The gym was kind of floating just on my fight resume. I had a couple of guys that were doing some other big things under the banner. And again, that was the advertisement. It was just us fighting, and it was free advertisement. People would
Hmm.
come because they saw us fight. People would stay because they liked the vibe here. But other than that, there were no systems in place. There was no real kind of etiquette or leveling up, or it was just a bunch of people that loved being here and the vibe was right. So it was enough for me to make a couple of bucks. It was enough for me to make French fry money. And I had one client who was pretty new to the scene around here. And again, just a guy that wanted to switch up his workout routine. We have a class that's got some weightlifting, but it's a lot more geared towards kickboxing, but different than cardio kickboxing that people typically take, where there's a lot of jumping around. This is a lot more geared towards guys that are doing stuff that's more practical. And he tells me that he's getting promoted and his company wants him to give a speech in Las Vegas. He tells me he made the biggest sale for his company to GE Aerospace, and now he has to go to give a speech in front of all of his peers, in front of all of the other departments in his company, talk about how he made the sale, and kind of now move into a mentoring spot. Attached to this was a promotion for him and would be necessary for him to have more speaking engagements. It'd be necessary for him to start leading more groups. He comes to me on the side and says to me, I'd really like to pick your brain about how you get ready for fights because to me, you go out there and you're getting undressed into your underwear and you're getting in a fight with a guy in front of all these thousands of people. And then you get on the microphone and you give this articulate speech and take a bow and walk out. And he says, I want to know, what are you thinking? What's the connections? And that was the light bulb moment. That was my aha moment that said, man, this is my path from this fighting world into the corporate world, into the business world. This is the connection that I need to help these ladies and gentlemen make, because a lot of them have spent most of their time studying and educating themselves academically, and a lot of them are uneducated when it comes to health, fitness, that kind of stuff has fallen to the wayside. Just like for me, a lot of my knowledge comes from health, fitness, anatomy. That was the stuff that was plugging me along, that was making me money, that was helping my career out. So that's what helps me. I have a lot of trouble sitting down and writing papers. I have a lot of time spent where I'm getting lost doing Excel sheets where other people whiz through this stuff. So, it's just like trading those kind of secrets back and forth. But my
That's it.
gift has been kind of drawing those parallels between fighting and business, where, hey man, you're just going to get up and give a speech to Betty and Tim, and everybody's gonna clap and give you a high five. Nobody's gonna punch you in the face. Like, easy, dude. I can teach you how to do this. No problem.
Love it. Fewer bruises and bloody noses. My gosh. You know, Shaun, this is such a great example. I loved that call out of you're basically trading insight. You're trading perspective. And like that's a huge value of a coach. And I think encouraging that the mindset of a fighter, the mindset of somebody who goes in and is pre-deciding their performance and like how are they going to show up in the ring. There's so many parallels to what we have to do in business. And active you can read all the books you want on courage, and I think that there's a very powerful device here in being able to like give the metaphor of fighting or even the experience of fighting to someone who's never actually experienced that, and it gives them an edge and a performance edge, and that's really really cool. Shaun, if people wanted to follow you, what's the best way for them to do so?
I am extremely active on Instagram right now. It's Sean Red Seal Martial Arts, and all of the separations of the words are underscored. It's really super simple. Just my name, Red Seal Martial Arts. Very active. You guys can DM me. I have these one pager blueprints on what I do to kind of build a ritual and start putting some of these pieces of getting your mindset in place. The first thing that we do is identify what we're doing. Then we're building these rituals, and then we're setting our plans into motion. So follow me on Instagram, send me a DM, Amanda Kaufman Blueprint, and I'll send you the one pager and we can get started. Anybody that wants to hit me up and do some one to one coaching, I'm available 24/7 for that stuff too. So hit me up on Instagram anytime.
Love it. I love it. That's so powerful. And one thing I want to make sure I ask before we go is what are three things that help a coach not to suck?
Wow. I would say forward thinking, showing up for your team, and self recognition.
Ooh, that's a solid answer, Shaun. I love it. I love it. It's so good. Well, listener, be sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. I mean, Shaun did a great job. He definitely deserves it, but it also helps other people find the episode and find the show so that they can stay inspired as they're building their business. And you know what? Come to think of it, why don't you just go ahead and share this episode with 3 of your friends and just send them the link to it through DM or text it to them, however you guys communicate, because they need to hear that they can transition from one career to another. They need to hear that the experience that they have is going to be translatable to somebody who doesn't have that experience. And that's one of the biggest values that a coach can really bring to a relationship. So I'm sure you've got 3 friends that need to hear that. Do share it with them. Thank you so much for joining me, Shaun.
And thanks for having me. It was awesome.
My pleasure. And listener, we will see you next time. Take care.